Sick Boy, Episode 1. This is Ren. This is 1 year ago. And I think Episode 2 just dropped a few days ago. So we're going to go Episode 1, Episode 2. Because, of course, we can't do Episode 2 without doing Episode 1. Now, for those of you that are new, or you're not quite sure how this works, when we do these breakdowns, when we dive into this stuff, the idea is not to guess what the artist was necessarily trying to say. It's to interpret. We have theories. I'll have theories, you'll have theories, they'll have theories. So we're going to watch Episode 1, which is 4 minutes, 25 seconds. We'll give some thoughts, we'll share some thoughts, then we'll go into Episode 2, which is 5 minutes and 42 seconds. I say all that because if I tell you episode, you think we're dealing with like a 30 to 60 minute gig. We're not. So we're going to go into this and see if we can make sense out of it. First up, Ren, Episode 1, The Flame of Prometheus. And yes, I can see that the ratio is off. He chose the theater view. Nothing we can do about that, sorry.
Have you ever heard the story of Prometheus? Let me start somewhere near the end. After the Great Collapse, the sick were rounded up like rabid stray dogs. Those who were strong enough were put to work in subterranean farms. First, they would be stripped of all dignity afforded to a human. Then, their bodies would be decontaminated and purged of the stench from the surface. In order to create an effective cog, you must first bleed it of all autonomy and free will. He or she must stop being human and become a limb.
A limb.
Those who were deemed too sick for work were discarded. To keep them alive would only further drain the earth of vital resources. It was a kindness to let them die. For years, this is how the program would run. But, like many systems that came before it, it was at the mercy of chaos theory. Chaos theory is often misunderstood. It is an oxymoron, a determined element of chaos, one that can send a whole system spiraling into mayhem. There was a prophecy. It told of a genetic anomaly, a human girl whose DNA harbored immunity to the virus, a blueprint for the future. For decades, the humans searched, setting up a global infrastructure of testing facilities in vain. With time, the candle of hope burnt down to a blackened wick. Whispers of the prophecy could still be caught traveling on the wind between members of the sick. Rivaling factions saw it as nothing but a dying superstition. Others clung to it like an amulet of hope. The rich and the elite, of course, used it as a method of control. Desperation is a powerful drug. Above fear, above loyalty to the party, the Dominion understood this and used it to their advantage. If you strip man of his basic needs, with enough time, he becomes a beast. Without shame and without morality. Primal. How ironic that the creations and brilliance of man should reduce him to his primal state. I guess with time, everything returns to source. While it was still part of protocol to test every subject for immunity to the virus, the outcome was predictable. There was no suspense. Any hope that testing would bear fruit died years ago. That is until we introduce chaos theory.
Don't do it. Damn it, Ren. Damn it. Wow. So first of all, I was surprised that in that whole episode of 4.5 minutes, the shirt said "sick boy," I think. We didn't hear Ren once. I totally thought he was just going to pop in with a verse, something. Like we were looking at an intro into the story that he was then going to tell, because Ren is a master storyteller. No, this whole thing was the foundation of the story. I have to assume. I could be wrong. We get into episode 2. It could literally just be the next part of that story, and it's not really about music at all. It's about a concept. I have no idea. But let's go back just a touch. Now, somebody had said right here.
Desperation.
Crowns. Yeah, I see that. I see some symbolism of crowns here behind the curtain deals, backdoor deals.
If you strip man of his basic needs with
enough time, he becomes a beast. Now, one of the things that I remember hearing in all my training in the military and all the things that I've done in my life, the teaching that I've done, is that there's a concept where we kind of discuss the lines, the lights, and the lanes. And once those collapse, once those begin to blur and fall apart, you begin to see the structure of people break down. The lines, the lights, and the lanes refer to the structure of society. You have the lights, whether it's like electricity, street lights, kind of think it's electricity, it's power. The lanes of like the roads and paths and just notional things that we follow because they are just the way. Like, you could drive down the street, and if you drive on the correct side of the road, everything's fine because that's the way the system works. But there's really not much stopping you from driving in the wrong side of the road and creating chaos. It's notional. We all just kind of abide by it. And the lines are, generally speaking, just the walls and parameters and rules that we live by because they are just the rules. And sometimes those rules can bend and shift based on any number of variables, whether it's the culture, the country that you live in, what age you are, and then anything that you can plug into this equation. So when the lines, the lights, and the lanes begin to fall apart, that's when you begin to see people deteriorate to their very primal level. Now, you can watch movies and shows. I mean, hell, you can see this happen in the world. When structure and society begins to fall apart, people become desperate. They have to do what they have to do. And I think that's especially with this specific piece of the script right here. If you strip man of his basic needs with enough time, he becomes a beast. And then you add the variable here, like people get desperate, they get hungry, they get thirsty, they need what they need to survive, so they will find a way to get it. Now, if you add a variable there of people with their own people, with their families, that desperation is then considerably multiplied. I think this is fascinating. You know, initially, when this ended and I didn't hear Ren rap or throw any kind of lyric out there, I was like, damn, I hope he does something in the next one because I want to hear him rap, sing, whatever. But honestly, after watching this whole display, I think I would be okay if he didn't, because whatever he's presenting here as a concept, I think is friggin' fascinating. And dare I say, I don't think that much of it is that far from the truth of some of the aspects of our current life. And not to be like conspiracy theorist, but I think there are just some things that take a little bit of a tweak, a little bit of a bend, and then we're going from like sci-fi and fiction to nonfiction, current events, real quick. Just a little bit of a, and then we're there. Let's see what episode 2 looks like. Pandora's Box. This was 1 day ago. Oh, damn.
You really got people working, huh? You don't look all that special. You look weak. Eat. You know, it gets a little lonely in here. No one to talk to. Well, we deal with animals like you all the time. Eat up, princess. Wakey, wakey! I got your food. Sure hope this doesn't make you any more sick. Should have brought you some water. You know you could really hurt someone with this. You should be careful. Come on, cat boy.
Hi everyone, this is your captain speaking. We are experiencing some choppy air and turbulence. The seatbelt sign will be on. Please remain in your seat for your safety. Thank you.
drugs. There he is.
I really hope you're worth all of this effort. Better be right about you.
Let's discuss. So, first we have the Flame of Prometheus. Then we have episode 2, which is this one, which is Pandora's Box. Based on what you know about Ren, which is probably going to be very similar to what I know about Ren, do you have any thoughts or theories on what this represents as a whole? Anything that comes to mind? I have some thoughts myself, but I'm curious to see what yours are first. And while you can just throw out a couple thoughts, I'm going to have just a little bit of Saturday juice. Cliffhanger. Yep. Very classic Ren. Cheers. Prometheus is about first discovery of fire, and and 1 was first discovery of the Savior Girl. Fear of Tomorrow, Pandora's Box, is about unleashing hope, and they rescue her. Oh, I see chapter 1. Gotcha. I find it interesting that she was even kept alive to begin with. By that I mean, didn't the first video say about those not obeying dying? So then why keep her alive with her blood? When her blood opposes the control, why keep something that would help the opposing side? Opposing side, I presume, being Ren. And Patty says she is hope. So Joe's question is, why would they keep her alive if it opposes the control? Because I think that if she is the only one who has immunity in her blood, it is just another way that the powers that be can control later. Like, they can control now because there is no immunity. If an immunity is discovered and they control it, it will be another form of control later. That's what I think. Or to come up with a counter. That's also a pretty good theory, Thelma. Yes. And yeah, think of it this way. If she is the one and only path to immunity, they could use that in a very exclusive way and control that resource so that it becomes like a must for people. You cannot survive this sickness without this one thing that we have access to. And people in their desperation will do anything to get it. That's the ultimate control. So here's what I wonder. If you think about Ren's work, the first thing that comes to mind for me are the pieces that he has done. Like we already know Sick Boy. We know a lot of his story already, his actual true story. And a lot of that has to do with like medication, diagnoses, misdiagnoses. And then you take his stance on some things like Money Game. Money Game 1, Money Game 2, Money Game 3. I wonder if some of this is not just about power per se, but if he's going to weave through a bunch of the things that he has talked about into this stretch of, I'll say films, short films, where yes, at the surface, it feels like there's the powers that be, there's the resistance, which is Ren and his people, and then there is this girl, it is the immunity to the sickness. Will this become a symbolic framework that when laid over things that Ren has previously talked about, it all begins to make sense? Will the girl and her immunity represent something further than just immunity? If it's not just about like power, what is he referencing? Like, I feel like there's a potential here for a whole bunch of layers that could be crazy deep. And I'm so curious to see where he's going to go with this. What I'm afraid of, though, is episode 1 was a year ago. This one, episode 2, was a day ago. So we got to wait a year now for episode 3? Ugh. Damn. Do you have thoughts on Pandora's box? As far as the title goes, as far as this video specifically goes, do you have thoughts on what Pandora's box mean? Do you think, like, I have my ideas. I'm curious to see what you think. You got to save up? Yeah. Yeah, hopefully it won't be a year. Maybe part of a year, like a week. A 50th of a year. Resistance to today's hierarchy? Sure. It could be, and I feel like it could go any direction. It could be government. It could be religion. There's a whole bunch of ways this could go. And it could just stay pretty generalized in just authority. We don't know. Maybe it won't get that deep. But I don't know. I think we're going to have to wait to find out. I think that's the sad reality of it. Damn it, Ren. Yeah. Pandora's box. All the ugliness and misery unleashed on the world, and the only thing left was hope. And Ren has just rescued their final hope to save the sick. I don't know if it would be about curing the sick because of his personal background, though. Yeah, so we know that she is hope. She is some version of hope because she represents immunity. But I think the question is, what is the immunity to? Is it to a sickness? If so, what is that sickness? It could be just a general, well, it's a sickness. It's the bad, right? It's how they control us. It's us being controlled by power, by authority. That is the sickness. Or is he being more specific in that the sickness represents something like capitalism or totalitarianism, or I have no idea, authoritarianism. I don't know. Yeah, greed or corruption. Like, this could get pretty deep. And I feel like Ren over the years in his music has talked about a lot of that stuff. So is this some form of short film that is symbolically bringing us through those thoughts? Interesting. Interesting. He makes us think, does he not? This is why I said we got to put on our director hats and glasses and step up to the plate here.